guys, Lori here. I'm here today to do part one of my July reading wrap up. I have got a lot of reading done this month, which has been incredible. And that is mostly because I had the whole month off. And I'm doing this in two parts because I am going away on vacation this week. So I'm expecting to have more books read. And this is also the week of the booktubeathon or the reading rushathon. So I'm definitely going to have more reads on, hopefully a lot. So I think it will just be easier if I split it in half, especially because I'll want to get part two up sooner rather than later. So as of right now, I have experienced 12 reads. That does include reading and listening. And I talked about this in my wrap up for June, but I did wind up finishing Wicked as You Wish by Rina Chopra. This book comes out in like March of 2020, but I just was so captivated by this book that I had to read it. Basically, it reminded me a lot of like Storybrooke and Once Upon a Time, but it basically follows these characters. They're fairy tale characters. They live in a fairy tale world, but when their world is like turned into an ice kingdom by the Ice Queen, they're relocated to America, but specifically to a town in Texas or Arizona. And you follow this girl named Talia, and her power is that magic doesn't work around her, I think is her power. Yeah. She's a spell breaker, someone that negates magic. But when the prince of her, her world, when I'm moving into her town, it kind of turns her world upside down. But it was just so fun. I really loved the environments that we got to see. I love the characters. I love the band of characters that we met. I gave this book close to 5 stars. I think I gave it like 4.75 stars. I was so nice. I love the LGBTQ references. I loved the Filipino mythology that was, littered through this novel. It was amazing, and I've never read anything by this author before, but she really, really honestly impressed me. So this book was a 4.75 star read, and I would definitely recommend that you guys check it out in March of next year. And then my next read is Love a la Mode by Stephanie Kate Strom. This is the first book that I read from Stephanie Kate Strom, and it wasn't my favorite read of the month, but I did like it. Follows these two characters, Henry and Rosie, and they wind up getting chosen to go to a cooking school in Paris. And Rosie's more of like a baker, and Henry's more of a cook, but it's like, it's for cooking generally, but they have like a baking week. And there's a guy whose dad is like a famous chef, and he winds up going there too. I liked it. I didn't love it. I did like that we got both characters' point of views. I really enjoy that. I felt like the ending was a little bit rushed, and I really want to know what happens after the end. But I wound up giving it 3 stars, and I would definitely read more books by Stephanie Kate Strom in the future. I thought it was cute. It just didn't wow me. So that's my thoughts on that. And the next book that I wound up reading is The Babysitter's Club, Christie's Great Idea, the graphic novel. I was a huge fan of the Little Sister series growing up. Like, that was the one that I read a lot, but I know that they're having a reemergence of Babysitter's Club. They're coming out with all the books on audio, on Audible. They're going to have a new TV series, and they're doing the graphic novels that Rhea Telgemeier started, and then they went up to another author, which I got one book at BookCon, so I actually need to read them in order. But I wound up reading the first one, and I actually really liked it. It's been a while since I read book 1, so it was nice to see it as like a graphic novel. I really read those books super fast. I'm going to definitely try to tackle one during the booktubeathon because I think it'll be easier. But I gave it like 4 stars. I thought the writing style was really compelling. I thought it stayed very true to the story that I remember, and I thought the graphics were really, really pretty. So I'm definitely going to continue reading this series as more come out. The Babysitter's Club, like, on just a car ride, so I wound up wanting to read something really, really quick, so I wound up picking up The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill, and I got this from Owl Crate in one of my past boxes, and it was just a fun read. These art styles and these arts is just so cute, and I loved the concept of, like, the Tea Dragon world, and it was just so fun. I really like read it really, really fast. I'm definitely gonna reread this before I read the Tea Dragon Festival, which is actually a prequel to this. But I loved it. I wound up giving it like 4 stars, and I definitely want to check out more books that Katie O'Neill has written. I know she has Echo Cove out and a couple of other ones. But I actually really liked it, and I thank so much for Owl Crate for giving us in a box because it definitely motivated me to pick it up, and its length was only like 60 pages. So if you're looking for kind of a quick read, I highly recommend the Tea Dragon Society, and it was adorable. The next read that I wound up picking up was Maybe This Time by Casey West. This was an arc that I got at BEA and BookCon as well. Was unable to attend BookCon, so I wound up giving her my arc when I was done with it. But I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was my favorite Casey West novel in reference to the characters. I know a couple of other reviewers were saying this, that they felt like the character was like a little bit more immature than most of her characters that I've seen. And I do definitely agree with that. But I really like the concept of this novel. Normally when you read summer contemporaries are normally always set around like summer break or in the summer. But I like this book because it was a very different structure. Basically, it follows these 2 characters, Sophie, and she winds up working at a florist, and her best friend's dad's catering company winds up getting like helping hand from a very, very famous chef. And his son winds up going to all the events. So every section of the book is like a different event that they cater over the course of a year. And she keeps like re-meeting this gentleman, and it's definitely love to hate. Like, it's definitely love to hate romance. But I love the structure of this book like a lot. I thought the structure was such a highlight. And I thought that the characters' relationships was interesting. Definitely love to hate. I would have liked her to like be less immature, but again, she's a high school kid. So, but I just felt like her age was like the stuff she did, especially towards the beginning part of the book, was not as engaging to me. But I thought the structure and her relationship with her best friend was some of the highlights of this read. And I thought that like he got some growth through the book, and so did she. She changed a lot. So I wound up giving this read 4 stars, and I'm all caught up on Casey West. I need to read one more sci-fi book, that's Pivot Point, but then I'm all caught up, which is great. And then I can dive into another contemporary author that I haven't completed her backlist, so I still have to decide who that is. But I really enjoyed this, and I'm excited for her new book when it comes out in 2020. That I wound up completing was The Camelot Code, The Once and Future Grief by Mary Mancusi, and I actually adored this book. It's been so long since I read anything like King Arthur themed, but this book was so cute. It was definitely like an adventure story, but it basically follows this girl named oh my god, I read so many books with characters named Sophie this month. It was like insane. I think I read 3 books that have characters named Sophie in them, so that was insane. But it basically follows this girl named Sophie, and she's like a gamer. She loves to play video games. Her best friend, I think her best friend's name is Seth or Stu, and they play this game. Little do they know, the person that organizes this game and created this game is actually Merlin from King Arthur's court. And based on a very random assortment of events, King Arthur winds up going to her timeline, and Sophie has to wind up going back in time. And it was so fun. The myth of King Arthur was so fun and well crafted, and I thought that she like reimagine the arc in such a fun way, and I was so captivated. It was such a fun read. I loved all the different point of views that we got. I love the Merlin character. It was great. I wound up giving it 4 stars, and I really hope to read the sequel soon because I do have an arc of it. My friend got it from one of the conventions. But this book was adorable, and I wound up giving it a 4-star read. And if you're looking for something that like dives back into the author myth, this is actually a great book to start in, and I thought the adventure was so fun. And it also does include time travel if you're looking for a time travel book for any of those reading prompts or stuff, because this book definitely touches on that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and hope that I get to the sequel soon. The next book that I wound up finishing reading is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. And yeah, this book doesn't come out until October, so it's an early read. I read it a little bit early, and this is definitely a Christmas themed read, but I really loved it. I gave it like 5 stars. It was one of my favorite contemporaries I read this month. It was just adorable. It felt, oh my god, this is another girl that has Sophie and Sophia. I've read like literally 4 books that have this name this month. This is so crazy. But it basically follows this girl named Sophia. It's Christmas. Her parents wound up going to visit her big sister who's about to give birth, and she winds up staying with her big extended Italian family. She has a bunch of like her mom's one of 9 kids. She has a lot of cousins, and that day before, her boyfriend winds up breaking up with her, and her grandma, trying to get her out of her slump, winds up having like a contest where everyone gets to choose a date for Sophie to go on, hoping that she'll get over it. And it was adorable. I thought this book was so fun, and as someone that comes from a really big extended family, I thought it was so adorable, so lovely. I thought it was the perfect holiday read. I would definitely recommend you read it around the holidays, but it was just so fun. Perfect read, 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is also Ashley Elliston's first pure contemporary book, and I thought she did it so well. It made me laugh out loud. I love the dynamics that she had with the cousins, because that's something that I've experienced in my life like a lot. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend you check this book out when it comes out in October and read it during the holidays, because it would be a perfect holiday read. Some of the dates were super fun and super specific to the holidays. That's why I say that. The next book that I wound up reading was The Unicorn in the Barn, and this is a former Owl Crate pick. But yeah, here's the cover. Next book that I wound up finishing was The Unicorn in the Barn by Catherine Ogburn, I think. This is a former Owl Crate read that I've always wanted to read, and when I saw that my library had it, I wound up ordering it. I like this book. I thought it was actually fun. I thought it had like a nice balance between fantasy elements, but also real life elements. I wound up giving it 3 stars. Basically follows this main boy, this lead character. He's a boy. His grandma wound up moving to an assisted living facility, so they had to like sell half their property. So a vet moves in, and one day he's in his little treehouse and he's watching what's going on, and he sees something that he's unsure what it is walk towards this barn. And then he realizes that it's a unicorn. And he learns that this woman is a vet, but she also specializes in magical creatures, and he winds up getting a job assisting. She has a daughter named Allegra, and he winds up becoming very attached to this unicorn. And that's like one half of the story, but there's also a lot of stuff deals with like grandparents getting older, and it deals with that stuff, but it also deals with like finances, and I really liked it. I wound up giving it like 3 stars as a read, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a second book, because the ending was really like open-ended, but I would be okay if we don't get a second book. But I thought it was really, really cute, and I would definitely read more of this author's middle grade books in the future. Next book that I wound up finishing reading was If I'm Being Honest by Emily Weberly and Austin Sigmund Broca. This is the companion book to Always Never Yours, which I read in May, I think. Yeah, it must have been May. And I really love that book, but I really, really, really love this book. I enjoyed the other one so much, but I really love the main character in this. And this was a book that I was like really unsure where they were going with the romance, but I was so pleasantly surprised by it. And I just love how she really changed a lot, but at the end of the day, how she was changing, it was because of what she saw, and I thought that was really interesting. But it basically follows this girl named Cammie. Everyone always calls her a bitch. She always is very upfront, always says what's on her mind. She has a reputation, but she doesn't really care about what anyone thinks about her until the guy she's crushing on calls her a bitch, and that kind of sends her in like a self-discovery thing. But I really love this book. I thought the romance was so unique, and I really loved it. I loved her growth. I loved her family dynamics were like so complicated and so heartbreaking at moments. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I wound up giving it like at least 4.5, if not 5 stars. I love the cameo between the characters from Always Never Yours. I thought that was adorable. I cannot wait to see what the next book is, and I just was so impressed, and I really, really love this writing duo, and it was just such a fun read. Then I got into a little bit of trouble. I started reading Small Town Hearts by Lily Valley, and I wound up DNFing it. You guys know I have very, very strong opinions about DNFing books, but I just ultimately decided that it was not going to work. So I wound up DNFing it, and I actually wound up giving the book away to a friend of mine named Justin, who likes contemporaries. So unfortunately, I wound up doing that. So that's my first DNF really of the year. So that's kind of impressive, I guess. But my friend wound up telling me to pick up The Storm Crow by Kayla Josephine. I got this book at BEA, and she wound up signing it for me. I really love this book. I wound up giving this book like 4.5 stars. It follows this girl named I think it's Athea, but I think that's what I say. So she basically lives in a society where everything is controlled by storm like crows, and there's a bunch of different types of storm crows. One night, her neighboring village winds up attacking her society, and it basically sends her country like into turmoil. All the storm crows have been killed. Her mother and her aunt have been dead. Her and her sister are all remaining, and the only thing that will save their country is if her sister puts her in an arranged marriage with a prince from this other country. This book was so compelling. I really loved it. I love the storm crow magic system. This book also, I talked about this a lot in my reading blog. This book also had a lot of issues facing the lead that we don't see, like depression and grief and anxiety. I loved her. She had a lot of potential love interest in this book, but the cinnamon roll character I loved so much. I really loved him. I can't think of his name. Um, Cal Callus is my new cinnamon roll character, but I thought the world in this book was so well crafted. Love the Storm Crows. Will definitely be checking out book 2, but this book really impressed me and it definitely got me out of my potential reading slump. And then the next book that I wound up finishing, sorry, these books are going to fall. The next thing that I wound up finishing reading was my audiobook of Geek Arella by Ashley Poston. I really love this book, and I was so happy that I wound up re-listening to it because it's been a while. Definitely a 5-star read. I really loved it. Here's my finished copy, but I listened to the audiobook and I remember screaming at my book, like at my audiobook, because I was so angry at some stuff happening, but it was just so good. Their relationship is so fun. Frank was back, which I love Frank, and I just love their romance so much. Definitely a 5-star read. If you've not checked out Geek Arella, I would highly recommend it. And then the last title that I'm going to feature in this video is Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosie Thor. This book does not come out until October from Scholastic. When I'm reading it a little bit early, and I really enjoyed it. It basically follows these 3 characters. It follows Anna, who's a technician who has a metal heart. It follows Nathaniel, who's the son of a commissioner who also has a metal heart. And then it follows Eliza, who is a trained assassin that is going to marry Nathaniel. And there's also a potential epidemic in Anna's city that she has to try to wind up cleaning. There's a lot of political drama going on. I wound up really enjoying it. I wound up giving it 3 or 4. I didn't give it like 4 stars. I thought it was a solid standalone novel. I don't think there necessarily needs to be a second book, but I was really impressed. I adored the LGBTQ references in this novel. Found it to be really captivating and really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. So I wound up giving this read 4 stars, and it does come out in October. So that's all the books that I read for the first half of the month. Let me know in the comments what are some of your favorite reads. For me, I definitely think it was Wicked As You Wish, 10 Blind Dates, If I'm Being Honest, and Storm Crow. Those were my favorites that I read so far this month. But yeah, let's have a discussion in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later for another video. Bye.